When things go wrong, as they sometimes will, when the road you're trudging seems all uphill, when the funds are low and the debts are high, and you want to smile but you have to sigh, when care is pressing you down a bit, rest if you must, but do not ever quit. Success is a failure turned inside out. Let's talk and clear the clouds of doubt.
MashaAllah, tabarakallah, assalamu alaikum, and welcome dear viewers from around the world for another exciting and new episode of your favorite program, Let's Talk, with your favorite host, Malik, on your favorite channel, Huda TV. And today we have a very, very special guest joining us all the way from Saudi Arabia. He is the founder of the Islamic Education Foundation in Jeddah. He is also a former member of the Royal Saudi Air Force, in addition to being a captain on Saudi Arabia Airlines and the host of one of Huda TV's finest programs, The Forgotten Sunnah. Of course, I think you know who I'm talking about now, Captain Hamoud Shamshemri. Thank you so much, Captain, for joining us today.
It's my pleasure.
Assalamu alaikum as well. And I want to apologize, I always mispronounce your name.
No problem.
My Arabic is very weak, and we'll blame my Arabic teacher for this.
Wa alaikum assalam wa barakatuh.
Thank you, Captain. Of course, bismillah, mashallah, we have a very handsome young studio audience today, you guys. Assalamu alaikum as well. And thank you guys for joining us, and I hope in the next segments we have some questions. I think that young man in the back, he knows a theme song to Let's Talk. So I want him to sing the song, inshallah, before the day's over. Thank you. Captain, how was the flight from Jeddah? Is it better being a passenger or a captain?
Sometimes you like to be passenger, to relax.
Captain, before we get started about this program, can you tell us really quickly about the Forgotten Sunnah? That was your program that you've recently filmed, and what was it about, and whose idea was it? And
well, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah. You know, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam have commanded us that to, and also before Rasulullah Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, you know, إن كنتم تحبون الله فاتبعوني يحببكم الله. Also صلى الله عليه وسلم عليكم بسنتي وسنة الخلفاء الراشدين بعد. Stick to my sunnah and the sunnah of the rulers after me, like Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, Ali. So we notice actually, I notice حقيقة, not only me but many Muslims, that many sunnah has actually been disregarded or neglected by many Muslims. So the ultimate goal of that program, is actually to remind the people to perform the Sunnah of Rasulullah, which especially they've been forgotten.
Excellent. I thought it was a great program. I enjoyed it, and I look forward to more programs from you.
I hope so.
But today, inshallah, we want to talk about flying airplanes. What can you tell us before we get started about the history of aviation in general?
Jazakallah khair. First of all, I would like to correct what you said in the beginning, that I am ex-Air Force. I am not in Air Force anymore.
Oh, okay.
I am ex-Air Force. I was a Air Force pilot before I joined Saudi Airlines.
Oh, I see. Okay.
But I left the Air Force, in almost 82.
Oh, okay. That's the year I was born.
And then I went to Saudi Airlines. Yes. So I'm retired captain now, Saudi Airlines.
Okay, excellent.
Concerning the history, well, I would say about the history of aviation. It started long time ago.
Okay.
About maybe 2,000 years ago.
Really?
It started, yes, in China, in many places. And the first attempt, was, using kites.
Okay.
And also glider.
By the Chinese or Greeks?
Chinese, in many countries.
Okay.
And also in China, they have built a kite, and they managed to measure the tunnel. There is a tunnel of the enemy.
Oh, I see.
They built a kite, a very big kite, and they managed to let the kite float, and to manage to measure that tunnel.
Okay.
But and then also gliders.
Gliders.
But actually, the actual, if you go through history, of course, you're going to through a long history, and many. We need a long time. In many countries, in Germany, they have experiments.
Okay.
In Italy, they have experiments.
Right.
Even in Brazil, also have experiments.
I'm sure.
This is a long time ago.
Right.
But actually, the real one, actually, which is all over the world, everybody aware of it.
Right.
Especially people dealing with aviation. Are the brothers Wright.
The Wright brothers from North Carolina, the Americans.
Yeah, the Wright brothers. Yes, here we go. The Wright brothers actually, according to history, they start their attempts and their experiments in between 1900 and 1910.
Yeah, okay.
And actually, but in the beginning, they also start glider. But when they discover aerodynamic,
right,
they built the first plane.
A small little plane. They didn't fly far either, right?
No.
Yeah.
But remember, in the past also, people individual, human being, like very famous, it's all over the world, in Abbas ibn Firnas.
Who is this?
This is a person, also. He started himself, he built, but, he forgot to put a stabilizer.
Okay.
So he just flown with the wings, and he flown for only about maybe 1-2 minutes maximum.
Before
or less.
the Wright brothers?
No. This is before Wright brother.
Oh,
No, he put some wings on his body.
Oh,
himself.
like this.
Yeah, he
I see.
glided himself.
Yeah.
He glided himself. But of course, and then he crashed. And he kept trying. This is I just mentioned this because one of the people who tried in the past, even to imitate and resemble the birds.
Right.
Yeah. But the real actually history and the real flying, I can say, the real flying took place actually with Wright brothers.
SubhanAllah.
In about between 1900 and
1910. Excellent.
No.
Captain, what about for you? Is flying a job for you that you just kind of fell into, or is flying something that you love and it's more of a hobby?
Very good question. Well, I can assure you, and this is, I think, in the opinion of many pilots all over the world, flying is actually started as a hobby.
Okay.
Because it's not a regular job. And until I get my retirement, I really used to enjoy flying until the last minute. Because you can tell, really, you start as a hobby, but it is a job. It's absolutely a job. But it's like, when you're driving bicycle.
Yeah, it's like riding a bike, but it seems so scary to fly an airplane. But
why?
I just seem, but like you said, it's like riding a bicycle. So once you learn it, you don't forget.
Absolutely. You cannot forget flying. Now, if I have the chance today to go back to flying, I'll be able to fly, except that I have just to, renew and just to revise some information, to look to the systems. But as flying itself, flying the airplane is like driving bicycle. You don't forget it at all.
Oh,
but as I told you, concerning the flying itself, it is really a hobby. You enjoy every second of it. Imagine you are. There are things. You don't see it as a passenger.
Of course.
The pilots. We see. When you're sitting in the cockpit, you have the whole, you see the horizon, all of it.
Right.
And because you have window to the right, window to the left, and your big screen.
Right.
So when we are flying, you can see everything, which passenger don't see except on the right side of the side.
Yeah, right, of course.
And actually and it's a challenging job. It's not a regular, it is a challenging job, absolutely. And it's actually, you enjoy every second of it. From the time you approach the airplane, preparing for, starting the engine, doing the checklist, from the time you taxi, from the time you take off, from the time you cruise, from the time you come to land, it's amazing, it's something very, very interesting.
Excellent, thank you, Captain.
That's why I said it's a hobby more than
a job.
It's a job.
What advice can you give to viewers at home, or possibly even the studio audience, or if they're thinking about becoming a pilot, what do they have to do?
Well, first of all, it depends, the desire, really, just being, I want to be a pilot is not enough.
Okay.
Do you really want to be a pilot? Are you interesting?
Right.
First of all, you have to be healthy, of course, the condition, any one wants to be healthy, to be a pilot, before they go through some medical check, and also, usually they accept people from after high school.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And they usually they look his marks, and his health. Right. Sometime, how tall he is. The minimum they accept is about 165 centimeters.
Oh, there's a height requirement?
Yeah, the minimum,
Oh,
usually, the 165 centimeters.
Oh, okay.
And of course, your vision have to be very strong. They don't accept, especially cadets. They will not accept you as a cadet or a training pilot in the beginning. If your vision or your eye, your vision is weak.
Right.
But, later on, after you become a pilot, if you lose a little bit vision, they will give you a waiver. You can use glasses. Yes.
Oh,
but in the beginning, you have to be healthy. And also, you have to speak English. You have to have very good English.
Really?
Especially where I come from Saudi Arabia and America and Europe.
Why?
Because aviation, the language of aviation aviation language is English.
So really,
all over the world, wherever you go, you speak English.
Even if you're on a domestic flight in the Middle East.
Sometime in domestic flight you can use your own language, but it should not take long.
Okay.
Sometime when you fly and you have VIP with you, sometime I did, when I have VIP with
What's
me.
What's a VIP?
Very important person.
Oh, okay. So, then you can. Yeah, I see. Yeah.
Then you can, talk to the tower. You just tell him for about. It should not take more than 1 minute or 30 seconds. You tell him, I have VIP in Arabic. I used to say that.
Oh, okay.
I can give some messages to other pilots flying.
Okay.
They can hear me the same frequency. I can talk to them. I can say, Salaam alaikum, how are you?
Yeah.
But not because You're not supposed to continue speaking other than English because maybe you are confusing other pilots.
I see.
Yeah, this
Yeah,
is the
okay.
reason. And you know, aviation is the international language all over the world.
Okay. Well, academically and training-wise, I know you said you had you went to King Faisal Aviation Academy. So to become a pilot, you have to go to many years of training, right?
That's right. No, because I joined the Air Force in 1970. You know, then I started my life, you know, flying, you know, with the Air Force.
Okay.
So I was just in King Faisal Academy. It's still on until now. The King Faisal Academy available in Riyadh, and many students, you know, who are interested in flying, they are registered there, you know.
Oh, that's fine.
And so I started my life as an Air Force, but until almost 1980, 81, 82. When I left the Air Force, I was a captain. You know, they call it captain. We have 3-star.
Okay.
Called captain. You know, so I left the Air Force. But so actually, I'm ex-Air Force.
Right. Ex-Air Force.
Before I was Saudi Airline.
You were
I was
ex-Air Force.
Yes.
Okay, I see.
I've flown, you know, in
the jets as well.
Yeah, jet. I've flown jet, of course. But, well, you know, in the beginning, you start flying. Of course, in the beginning, you start flying on Cessna. You know,
that's small.
One proper. Yeah.
Yeah, one proper. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, Cessna. You fly for about almost 15 to 20 hours before you've flown solo. Before you fly.
Yeah, of course.
You know, you have to be, the instructor will be with you all the time in the cockpit.
Right, of course.
And he will give you a chance to fly most of the time.
Right.
But he will not release you to fly solo. They call it solo. When you fly alone, they call it solo.
Solo, right, of course, yeah.
He will not release you to fly solo until he is 100% sure that you'll be able to fly Ben alone.
Of course, yeah.
And you can ask me, you know, what was my feeling that day, you know, when I flown for my first
time. How
first time in my life. Oh, yeah, alhamdulillah, you know, it was really a little bit scary, but also happy at the same time.
Yeah, what was scary? Landing, taking off? What was
no, to be alone in the cockpit for the first time in your life.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
To be in the middle of the, you know, between, you know, in the middle of the air alone.
Yeah,
but alhamdulillah, you know, and usually they give you up to 20 hours.
Okay, training.
You know, training.
Right.
And they may give you, you know, they exceed you or give you extension 2 or 3 more hours.
Right.
But usually, I would say 90% of the training pilots, they will make it. They will make it, you know, in 15 hours. 18 hours. Sometimes, some of them, mashallah, make it in 10 hours.
Oh, okay. Depends on the person.
It depends on the person.
Cadet.
Yes,
okay.
yeah. And then we've flown jet, you know. This is in the Air Force.
Yeah.
And then after the Air Force, I ended up at the Air Force flying the Hercules C-130.
Okay.
This,
yeah.
The Hercules C-130.
Okay.
I've flown this almost about 8 years.
Captain, can you talk about the airplane? We're talking about the airplanes now. Can you talk about the planes in the beginning, passenger planes, and what type of planes you flew, and what type of planes you flew as in the Air Force, and let us know about, because a lot of viewers don't know what a C-130 is or a Cessna is.
If you want me to talk about Cessna, is a one proper, you know, only 2 seats. This is all over the world, you know, when they're training the new pilots, the cadets, they use also one proper airplane.
Okay.
He flown, what do you call it, until he finished, as I told you, 15 to 20 hours, and then they give him, after he pass oral and of course in the airplane, they will give him what you call private license.
Okay.
And I know many people are getting this private license, even if he doesn't want to build. He just get it for the sake, for happy, you know.
For fun, like we said, yeah.
And no, there are people, in Europe, in America, they have their own airplane. I mean, small airplane, they fly themselves.
Yeah.
And they get checked, of course, before under the FAA regulation.
Of course, yeah.
And then, then after you get the private pilot, then you go to other airplane which have 2 engine.
Okay, 2 engine plane.
Yeah, you get training. Also, you get trained about up to 50 to 100 hours, sometimes 200 hours, you know. And they give you a certificate, what you call a commercial pilot.
But that's still a small plane, right?
Small plane.
Okay, 2 prop, right.
Yeah. Again, it's a prop.
Okay.
And then after you get the commercial pilot license, then you can submit to other airline. You know, they will take you and also give you another training.
Another training,
Another training for the airplane you're going to fly. Okay. So usually, you know, when the person, you know, finish the commercial and he submitted, they will take him and give him ground school and also give him training in simulator. The simulator is like it's kind of mock-up, or actually it's a real airplane but on the ground, and you can fly, and when you are in the cockpit, you feel really, you see the sky, you see the moons, you see the star, you see other plane coming.
When you're in the simulator, you feel like you're in a plane.
Exactly, on hydraulic.
Oh, I see.
Yes, it's on hydraulic, and you feel. You have to have training here before they release you to fly as a first officer.
Right.
You know, first officer is a co-pilot.
Right.
And again, they will give him about minimum 100 hours to 200 hours training.
Okay.
And then they release him as a first officer. And then he continue fly as a first officer until he finished certain hours before he become a captain.
Okay. But what were the names of the actual planes that you flew on Saudi Arabia Airlines? Like a 737, 747?
No, actually, when I left the Air Force, I joined we call Special Flight Services.
Okay.
Special Flight Services, they have only G2s,
Okay.
G3, G4s, and Falcons. This is actually the one.
Oh, I see.
Because in Saudi Airline, they have many departments. They have the line department, they have the Royal Department, and they have a special flight. So when I joined Saudi, they were in dire need for Saudi to be in that department. So they direct me to be in the special flight.
Oh, excellent. Very good. Captain, we have to take a short break. I'm really enjoying our conversation. I can't wait for the next segment. So you guys at home, stay tuned. Don't go anywhere. We have more with Captain Hamoud.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala choose whom He wills subhanahu wa ta'ala for His mercy, for His messengership, for the revelation to be revealed. This is not for the human beings to make that decision. If a person would turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sincerely, truthfully, asking for forgiveness, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala promised to forgive. We have as Muslims a duty, and that is to recite the book of Allah, to ponder over the verses, the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and to act according to the Quran. The mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala encompasses everything, but who would this mercy will be for? And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was sent to all mankind. So the ummah, or the people of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, are all mankind since the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam till the day of judgment. Why waste our life without getting to know every verse in the Quran, what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from us?
Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back, dear viewer, to your favorite program, Let's Talk, on your favorite channel, Huda TV. I'm still joined by Captain Hamoud, and we're having a wonderful, interesting, and informative discussion about flying airplanes. And Captain Hamoud, thank you for staying with us.
Jazakallah khair.
Well,
My pleasure.
Excellent. And we actually have some questions from the studio audience. Go ahead, brother.
Yes, my name is Asmir and I'm from Bosnia and Herzegovina, and I have some questions. First, assalamu alaikum to our
Alaikum
speakers.
salam.
Are the airplanes safer than cars?
Excellent question.
MashaAllah.
Thank you.
Very good question. Jazakallah khair. Absolutely. Absolutely. Flying airplane is more safer than cars. If you, my brother, and you know that how many accidents take place in one city, take any city in the world and just calculate, the car accident take place every day. Minimum, I would say minimum, even in the safest country, just name any country, you will find a minimum 10 to 15 accidents only in one city. In some country, maybe 100 accidents. But if you look to the airplane, aviation, flying airplane, maybe you only hear once a year an accident. Yes, of course, when a car accident take place, definitely the casualty will be, the people die or maybe get injured more. It can reach 200, 300, they lost a life. But when? Once a year, sometime rare at all. But you look to the car, not only how many accidents, how many people get killed every day. Not every day, I would say every hour in many countries. So definitely, when you fly an airplane as a passenger, or we, like us as pilots, it's much safer. Because, my brother, in flying airplane, there is, every single emergency can take place. There is checklist for it. So all the pilots all over the world, they have been trained how to deal with any malfunction, with any emergency. But in the car, I know you're driving on the road, but if let's say you have a flat tire, okay? You have a flat tire when you are speeding. Let's say by kilometer, you are driving 140 kilometers. You think when you have a flat tire, you can control the car? No way.
No way.
But in the airplane, anything happen in the airplane, there is a checklist. There is, steps we do. So every single emergency can take place in the airplane we are aware of it, and we know how to deal with it. So definitely, my brother, is flying. I'm not making, I'm trying to, but it is true, flying airplane as a passenger is much safer than cars. Absolutely.
Thank you, Captain Hamoud.
Sure.
Thank you, brother, for that excellent question. Did you come all the way from Bosnia? Yes. Go ahead, brother. Do you have a question as well?
First, I want to agree to the audience and the guest and the host for with Islamic
Greeting.
with Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam, brother. Thank you so much.
And to thank you all, especially this our guest about this interesting chatting. And I want to ask you, because you are a Muslim, I think that you maybe experience these ayats from the Quran, this air ayats, like in the Surah Mulk when Allah speaks about the birds, and in the other, I think that is in Surah Bakar or something, when Allah speaks about ascending. I think that you, can you tell us how you experience these ayats? Because you have a experience like you are like a bird, like a bird.
Yeah, excellent question. Thank you, brother, for your question. Thank you, brother. Go ahead, Captain.
I understand, flying the airplane, first of all, we have to praise Allah and thank Him that He gave us, this, equipment, and imagine, in the long time ago, a long time ago, people, when they were riding camels, riding horses, and then cars came. And now, alhamdulillah, we have jet airplane. You can have breakfast at your home, and then you have lunch in Paris, and you have dinner in New York. So this is really a blessing from Allah. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, also said, يعني الخيل والحمير تركبوها ويخلق ما تعلمون. This is the one, what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, ويخلق ما لا تعلمون, is include these airplanes.
What does that mean?
So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He said, He have created camels and mules,
right,
and horses for you to ride.
Right.
And He will create something you don't know in the future.
Oh, wow.
And this is what Allah created.
Yeah, that's
and maybe
excellent.
something else coming in the future,
Yes,
because Allah knows the best,
Yeah.
So that's why also, whenever you're riding, anything, especially, riding camel, it is a sunnah that you make dua, subhanallah sakhara lahada wa ma kunna lahu muqrinin. All glory to Allah that He gave us this and He make it easy for us.
Right.
It is a good, sunnah, and it's a good way anytime you ride, especially in the airplane, you should make that dua. And imagine, imagine now, even with this jet airplane like 747,
right,
people, because used to it, they now, sometimes they looked at the watch and said, why are late? Even it's only 6 hours, because people always in a hurry.
Right.
And so people, they imagine, if the factories, the airplane factories, and plant, they come up with something faster. And they did, the airplane was made by, England and France.
The Concorde.
The Concorde.
Right.
You know how many hours it takes from Paris to New York? It's only about 2 hours and 45 minutes.
Yes,
you don't even finish your lunch, and you're there.
Yeah.
Though the people said, we are late.
They still say you are late. Thank you, Captain.
People don't get satisfied.
Thank you, Captain.
Sure.
Thank you for your questions. Well, brother, do we have any other questions from the studio audience? Oh, go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
My name is Idris from Bosnia.
Thank you, Idris.
I need to ask our guest, how does an airplane actually fly?
Excellent question. Thank you, brother, for that, that question.
Very good question. This is going to take a long bit.
It's okay. Go right ahead, Captain.
And let me start, with this paper. I was expecting such a question, actually. So that's why I brought this paper, You see this paper now, you see how now it's bending down.
Right.
If I plug, very strong plow, you'll see the paper is kind of, you see this?
Right.
Okay, this is exactly the theory of flying. Now, the airplane has 4 forces. Okay. They have every airplane, airplane apply on the airplane 4 forces. We have we call it the thrust force, the drag force, the lift force, and the gravity force. These actually the forces which control the airplane. So when the airplane starts, running on the runway, the more the airplane gets faster, the more you have lift, the airplane will lift. And also, the drag gets less and the gravity gets less. So that's why the airplane fly.
Right.
You want to descend, you do the opposite. Once you reduce the speed, the gravity increase and the drag increase. And the airplane keep descending. So these actually the forces. But you remember, also the number 3 law of Newton. Every action has a reaction.
Right.
This is also apply on this. So when you put more power, then you got the reaction of the airplane.
The air pressure. Yeah.
If you reduce the speed, then the airplane will descend. This is the thing, actually. So actually, and also another thing, I want to, since you asked this question, the airplane itself, the wing of the airplane is always, the top is curved. The upper wing, usually, if you have a chance anytime, go and look to the wing of any airplane. You will find the upper wing is curved and the down wing is flat. So this is what they call it, from aerodynamic point of view, they call it aerofoil or autofoil. They have two names. Either aerofoil, the name of the shape of they call it aerofoil, or aerofoil. So when the wind blow on the top of the wing, usually it makes deflection. And that deflection makes the air under the wind is higher, stronger than the wind on the top of the wing. So that's why the air comes here and go down, and the more speed the airplane on the runway, the more lift you have. So that's why the airplane fly. Right. But this is anytime anytime the airplane is running actually on the runway, so the more speed the airplane is going on the runway, the more lift it has, and the less speed, the less lift. So also when the airplane fly, the drag decreases, the gravity decreases, and the lift get more and thrust get more. These actually the forces which control flying the airplane, how the plane fly.
Captain Hamoud, thank you so much. So what about when you're cruising in the air?
When you are cruising in the air, very good question. When you are cruising on the air, all forces are equal to each other. The opposing, all drag and thrust and lift and gravity are equal. But once you reduce your speed, then drag get more and gravity get more. That's why the airplane descends.
Okay. So the engine is still running at full throttle, full speed when you...
No. You mean while takeoff?
While cruising.
No, not full. No.
Oh,
actually, you see, what controls the speed of the airplane, of course, the weight, which include number of passengers,
luggage,
the fuel, the luggage, the fuselage of the airplane. This is actually also the humidity, the temperature, the dew point.
Right.
This is all affected the airplane. Also, other thing which affects speed of the airplane. Usually, you have the wind.
Right.
If you have tailwind, if you have tailwind, you go faster.
Oh, good.
This is extra force, extra speed giving from Allah.
Yes, subhanallah.
If you are facing headwind, then your speed will be less.
Oh, okay.
So usually, wind affects the speed of the airplane.
Oh, excellent. Captain Hamoud, can we talk a little bit about navigation? How do you navigate your way around when you're in the air?
All right, that's good. Navigation is what apply on the ships. These apply also airplane.
Oh, okay.
And navigation is actually, I call it, the soul of aviation, because if you cannot if you cannot navigate, you will not reach anywhere. So you have to do a navigation,
right?
Because actually, there are actually in each airplane there are instruments, which actually show you and let you know where are you going north, are you going west, are you going south. Also, are you going northwest, or are you going northeast, or southeast, or northwest? This instrument actually is show you exactly where are you direction, whether at night or at day. Because some people, I remember a long time, people ask me, how do you know your way at night?
Right, of course.
So whether at night or at day, I always rely, of course, on my instrument.
Right.
And also we have maps. Nowadays, in the past, usually, pilot take maps and he just make his own plan on the maps.
Oh,
and of course, now it is almost computed.
But what if the computer fails and you have no navigation?
You go back to your regular navigation.
Your map.
You go to basic navigation.
Oh, okay.
And it did happen many times, at airplane. Computer fail. Well, they have GPS also fail.
Oh, okay.
Or inertial system fail.
Right.
They have INS. They have GPS. they have also now, in the latest day, they have more modern system on the airplane,
Right.
which is really, you are like you sitting, playing games.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but okay, about the navigation, of course, it's not as simple to say fly north, fly northwest. There's a specific.
Of course.
Can you talk to us a little bit about
Yeah,
that?
sure. Even the sky is so wide. It's not up to the captain or up to the pilot to just follow him, fly whenever he wants. He is controlled by ETC. The
ground
control ground. Yes, they are the one. You see, anytime you want to take off. Let me go back now from takeoff.
Okay.
When you are actually while you are making taxi, they call it, when you are moving the airplane from the parking going to the runway, they call it taxi.
Taxi.
Yeah.
Okay.
Before even that, no pilot has the right to start the engine until he takes permission from the tower.
Oh, okay.
See, but usually the tower is aware, is aware of this particular flight with the number that it has a flight today.
Yeah. Okay.
So when you call the tower to ask permission for startup, he will give you permission.
Okay.
This leads me to another. This also, I can assure you that no pilot can move the airplane, just because he is a captain. He can go anytime to the airport and he can start the airplane and go.
No.
This give a chance to people hijacking airplanes.
Yeah, of course.
So any flight in the world, the tower and the ETC are aware of this particular flight. That even with number. So when you come and you take permission to start up, they are aware of you. They will give you permission. Okay, now you started the engine, then you ask for taxi. When you are going to taxi, again with permission.
Okay.
And then also for thing, when you're taxiing, you have to be very slow.
Okay.
Because safety.
Right.
Now, just before takeoff, you will call the tower, to give you permission for takeoff.
Right.
You can tell him, for instance, you can tell him Saudi airline, Saudi airline, let's say 625
for example,
are ready for takeoff. Then he will reply. He said, "You are clear for takeoff," and he will give you ATC clearance.
ATC clearance.
Yeah, they call it clearance.
Okay.
He will give you clearance after you're airborne. How many? He'll give you the altitude.
Okay.
You should go first.
All
The
right.
direction you're gonna go. Usually, even if he knows where is your destination.
Right.
But due to other traffic. Because maybe he give you another direction.
I see.
He may tell you, okay, after airborne, please, 5,000 feet, take direction, let's say 120, 320, and he will give you a certain direction.
Yeah.
So it is not up to the pilot to take
to take a direction that he likes.
And especially, and there is also another thing, for your information, when the globe actually is divided into 360 degrees.
Okay, right.
So anytime you fly between 360 and 179. Imagine the globe.
Right.
This is, will be odd.
Odd.
Will be odd.
Okay.
When you fly the opposite from 180 to 359,
right,
will be even.
Okay.
So if I'm flying, let's say, I'll give an example. In my case, in Saudi Arabia.
Okay.
If I'm flying from Jeddah to Riyadh,
okay,
then my altitude should be odd.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I should be 290, 270, 330. When I say 30, I mean 33,000 feet.
Yeah.
When I say 290, I mean 29,000 feet.
Okay.
The other one who's coming from Riyadh to Jeddah, no, he should be 340. He should be even.
In order to avoid collision.
Even he's not even if he's not in the same sector, he's not in the same way I'm going. No.
Right.
He's coming from the opposite. But this is the regular condition. When you fly from 360 to 179,
right.
Unless there are cases, then the controller on the ground he gave you certain altitude.
Okay.
Even if it's opposite or actually it's not going what I told you, then it is his responsibility.
Okay, not yours. Okay.
But usually, sometime maybe some people or brothers say, why you need a clearance? The sky is so wide open.
Exactly.
Right? Just fly wherever you want.
Yeah.
This applied to Concorde.
Oh, okay.
It did apply to the Concorde because the Concorde they fly up to 60,000 feet.
Oh, wow.
So nobody there.
Nobody.
So usually Concorde fly from Paris or from London to New York direct. They don't go anyway. They just go direct.
But yeah, of course, because no one's that high. Because you're flying at 33,000 feet most of the time.
Yeah, up to 370, sometimes 390. 390. But it is under control. All the sectors, all the ways, actually according to the clearance, of the controller. You don't just fly wherever you want.
Okay.
You have to stick to the clearance they gave it to you.
What about flying at day versus flying at night? Is that the same or different, or does that have an effect?
Well, at least during night it's a little bit different,
More difficult?
because at daytime, it's clear.
Right.
You can see, you know, in front of you. But flying the airplane is the same, whether at day or at night.
Right.
But usually at night time, it's going to be 100% instrument.
At nighttime.
And,
of course, there's no vision.
Yeah, it will be instrument.
Okay.
Even if it's clear, you know, even if it's clear, like you can see the stars, you know, it's still, you know, instrument. But same procedure apply at daytime, it's applied at night.
Okay.
You know.
And Captain, actually, before you proceed, let me interrupt you briefly. We're going to go to a short break and we'll be right back. You guys stay tuned at home. We have more with Captain Hamoud.
The aim of the show is to really focus and gain a grasp of those things which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves, and those things which will gain for us the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and will make us amongst those who are beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Is there any evidence from the Quran that shows that those who repent are beloved by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala?
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is happier, is more happier with the repentance of his slave than you if you came across your camel after you lost it in a white open land. The love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will enable us to reach into a status wherewith or in which we will taste the beauty of Iman.
We would like to be amongst those who love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and those whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves.
Indeed, you will see your Lord as you see this moon, without having any harm in seeing it alone.
Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to your favorite program, Let's Talk. And we're still here with Captain Hamoud having a really interesting and fun discussion about flying airplanes. Captain Hamoud, before the break, I wanted to speak to you a little bit more about the difference of flying at nighttime as opposed to the day. And you said they're basically the same.
Yes, they are the same. But, you know, sometime at daytime, you know, I can go fly with my vision, you know, just my eyes, you know.
Right.
I can continue, of course, but still under the control of the ATC, you know.
Always,
the
okay.
controller, you know. You know, for example, you know, if I approach the airport, I can, because at daytime, especially when it's sunshine, I can say to the tower, you know, I can say, tell him, you know, the airport is inside.
Right.
Inside
okay.
means that, you know, I can see the airport.
Oh, I see.
So then he said, okay, then he gave me permission to continue.
Right.
So I don't need, you know, for him other instruction. Or
Right.
otherwise, except when I approach there, you know, exactly when I face the runway itself.
Right.
Then he will give me another permission to land. So
Okay.
you know, no doubt about it that, you know, flying at daytime much easier.
The night.
Yeah, especially concerning when you have weather problem. You know, when you
Of
have weather,
course.
especially because one of the worst thing could face, you know, airplane is weather. You know, especially what you call cumulonimbus cloud. This is CP they call it,
Oh,
which
okay.
include, you know, electricity.
Right.
You know, sometimes snow, sometimes
Right.
you know, drizzle. You know, so at daytime you can see around you. You can see also enjoying. And I
Right.
go back to happy, you know, remember?
Yeah, being a
you know,
hobby,
you
yeah.
enjoy fly at daytime because
Right.
you can see every front of you, especially when it's a clear day.
Right.
It's very. And of course, what I said to you know, flying at daytime, you know, you can land, you know, without, you know, using instrument.
Right.
I can fly just with my own vision, you know, continue, you know. But at daytime, no.
At nighttime.
Daytime, no, I said at nighttime.
Oh.
At nighttime, you will but almost, you know, your instrument, unless you come to the airport, you know, and also if you see it, sometime also it's very clear night.
Right.
Pilots also sometimes they tell the towers, I can see the airport even at, but
You can
when
still
he's
see it.
when
he's
he's only
close.
about 10 miles from the airport. You know,
Yeah.
that's it. You know, he can see the airport sometimes 20 miles when it's clear. Though still he can ask to land also visual. He said,
Right.
I will take visual. You know, no need for my instrument. But usually daytime is much easier than night. Absolutely.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Captain Hamoud.
Sure.
I think we have some questions for you, Captain, from the studio audience. Go ahead, Alaikum Salam, brother. Tell us about your name and where you're from. And
Yes, my name is Ahmed Baha. I'm Egyptian.
oh, thank you, Ahmed.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
I'd like to ask you, Sheikh Captain Hamoud, about how many years to be a great captain and great pilot, and I'd like to ask about volunteers. How can we do this? Have we got any training course to do this?
Jazakallah khair. Very good question. Yeah, of course, definitely. You know, the cadets, they go through very, very, long-term training. First of all, they go to ground school. They study ground school about aviation, about weather, aerodynamic, sometime also to do with regular, the regulation of aviation. They go about almost minimum of 1 year, they study, yes. And then after after they pass the test of what I call it oral, they go through aerodynamic, electronic, also sometime also English language. And after he finishes ground school and he's really managed to pass this, then he go to the next step and go training. As I told you in the in the other episode, that he go training on a small airplane with one proper, and then after he finish, he go to another airplane with 2 prop,
Right.
And then minimum before they release him as a first officer, or you can call him a co-pilot, he will fly minimum 200 250 hours, before the, and then he go on the simulator of this airplane. He will be released as a first officer. If let's say if he's going to be released on 737, okay, then he go to simulator and again study the system of the airplane, another ground school, and then training in the simulator. After he is really proved that he is capable and he is really professional, then they release him to fly as a co-pilot on the 737, and then he will continue fly. Let me talk about Saudi Airline. I don't know about it, but almost the same. You need minimum to finish 4,000 hours flying time to be captain. Yes,
yeah, so much.
Because this is a big responsibility. Flying to be a captain, or you call it, to lead, or as a leader of the airplane, you need really a very good experience. Yeah. So the co-pilot will fly minimum of 4,000 hours, sometime more if he didn't prove himself. But he will fly. You see, each co-pilot is trained to be captain. So during flying, during this period, maybe he takes about 7, sometime to 8 years before he releases captain. Yes, during this time, he will be given a chance to fly the airplane, of course. Because the co-pilot is there. They will not release a co-pilot to fly as a first officer until he is qualified to fly the airplane in case anything happened to the captain. You see? Yeah. Because if let's say the captain died or he has a heart attack, who's going to fly the airplane?
Right.
So the first officer.
Yeah.
Though, that's why during flying, all the time he fly, when they schedule him on trips, they will give him a chance to fly. Let's say if the airplane going to A, B, C, D, the captain may fly, to A, and then to B he will give the co-pilot, and then the captain C, and then the first officer to D, different destination. Yeah. And because the ultimate goal of this first officer to be captain. So I will tell you minimum 4,000 hours because, and it will take some time, 7 to 8 years, if he is really good. Sometime he will not make it. There are people who did not make it as a captain. Oh. They continue first officer.
Oh, I see. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Excellent point, Captain.
Sometimes they cannot make it.
Go ahead, brother.
It's long time, so very big story.
Yeah, it's very
You
long.
can't take it on a small journey only. That's it.
Thank you, brother.
Jazakallah khair.
Thank you, Jazakallah khairan, brother Akram from Egypt. Thank you very much, brother. Do you have another question?
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam.
My name is Man Abdurazik. I am from Egypt.
Thank you for coming, brother.
I have a question for the studio guests.
Oh, go ahead.
What's the difference between civilian airplanes and the military airplanes?
Thank you for your question.
MashaAllah. Very good question. Well, flying itself is the same. The training as the civilian pilots, to prepare him to be a pilot is the same as civilian. Military, I'm talking about the basic training, the same. But the airplane are different, of course. So the military aircraft, especially the fighters, a little bit different. The fighters usually, you are only sometimes by yourself or by your instructor in the beginning, and it's only 2 seats, the instructor, and the cadets. But the fighters pilot, they can fly up to sometimes 50,000, 60,000 feet, above mean sea level, and sometimes they need oxygen. The fighter pilots, the airplane military pilot, especially fighters, he needs oxygen all the time because the higher you go, the more oxygen you need. While he's flying, the reason, actually, the purpose of the oxygen, not because he needs oxygen while he's in the airplane, no, just in case he loses pressurization, and I will go through this, inshallah, more detail. Just in case the fighter pilot in the airplane, when he's flying 50,000 feet, 60,000, if he loses pressurization, which the purpose of the pressurization of the to make the cockpit for you like you are sitting on about 7,000 feet or 6,000 feet above sea level. So you can, but just in case if he loses pressurization when he's flying 70,000 or 60,000 feet, he doesn't have time. You know, if he without oxygen, he may only fraction of second and he will be out of conscious. He will be unconscious, and also, you know, if after 4 minutes he will have brain damage.
Oh my goodness!
Complete. That's why the fighter pilot must have oxygen. The Concorde, you know, I mentioned the Concorde when the aircraft was operating between, you know,
New York,
Paris and New York, you know, the pilots have oxygen all the time, you know. So this is different, of course, and also fly, you know, the military aircraft, especially the fighter, you can do aerobatics, but you cannot do aerobatics with 747. You can go like this, you know, you can go, you know,
it's more
you
like
can play with the airplane in this. And of course, the purpose of the fighter and the military is completely military, you know, for in case of war, in case, you know, of protecting the country, you know, this is the purpose. But basic flying training in the beginning is almost the same. Of course, the civilian aircraft, you can tell from the name, they are civilian, only to carry passenger, to fly in international flight. Military aircraft usually only domestic. They don't go, except in cases very rare, they will take permission. They will, this country who really, his airplane, the military aircraft is going to another country, they need permission, you know, because this is military aircraft.
Of course.
So because it's military, must have a special permission to fly over this country. But, you know, in case of civilian, no, they have open, you know, they do permission, but it's open permission all the year, and they keep renew it. So military aircraft usually we fly domestic, you know, not like civilian international.
We can say a military plane is like a Lamborghini, and the civilian plane is more like a bus or something like that. Can we say that?
Almost.
Captain Hamoud, what are some of the most critical stages that you may face as a pilot on a civilian airplane? The takeoff,
very
landing?
Good question. Well, I would say that, you know, there are cases you can call it the most happy time, and at the same time the most critical.
Oh, what time is that?
Takeoff and landing.
Oh, of course.
You know, during takeoff, the pilot, you know, we have 5 senses.
Right.
He needs 7. Really, it is very important because you're talking about responsibility now.
Yeah.
You see, during takeoff, even it's really the most pleasure time for pilots, but at the same time, it is the most critical.
Okay.
We have, in our aviation terminology, we call the 11 minutes, the critical 11 minutes.
The critical 11 minutes.
Yeah. 3 minutes after takeoff,
right,
and 8 minutes before landing. So that's why you call 11.
Okay, yeah.
So the first 3 minutes after takeoff, it is the most critical, and the same time, the most happier time. You know, the same, because really when you come, you reach your speed, because there is a certain speed when you are, you know,
ascending.
When you are actually rolling the airplane on the runway, there is a certain speed. Usually the one who is not flying is the one calling speed. You know, usually it's, you know, let's say, I'm flying as a captain, and the co-pilot is he will tell me, you know, a certain speed. He will say, now, you know, certain speed, you know, V1, we call it V1,
right.
you know, V2, something like that. But I wouldn't want to go detailed because maybe the V1, V2 is not clear for you. But anyway, when I reach the takeoff speed,
right,
you know, then the co-pilot said, you know, okay, roll, pull up, or something like that. You know, or he will give me that speed. At that speed, I cannot resist. I cannot deny. Unless, if I reach this speed, I must take up, even I have emergency.
Oh, you have to.
Because, they have no remaining distance for runway now.
Oh, I see. Captain Hamoud, that's an interesting point. Actually, there's no more time in this program, but I want to keep the viewers at home in suspense, and I want you to come back for part 2. And we're going to start that program, that episode, inshallah, with where we left off today. And thank you so much for coming. And you guys in the studio audience, thank you for coming as well, inshallah. And I want you guys to stick around for part 2 with Captain Hamoud. And dear viewers at home, inshallah, I really hope you enjoyed this episode. We're not going to let Captain Hamoud go. We're going to let him finish his thoughts and tell us more about flying airplanes And also in the last segment, I like to talk about the email, but you guys haven't written any email. I opened up the inbox, there's no email. So you guys send me an email. I'll respond to you personally, inshallah. It's talk@huda.tv, talk@huda.tv. Tell me if you like the guest, the host, the studio audience, the topics. It's your program, so give us some feedback. So until next time, we leave you in the care of Allah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
When things go wrong, as they sometimes will, when the road you're trudging seems all uphill, when things go wrong, as they sometimes will, when the road you're trudging seems all uphill, when the funds are low and the debts are high, and you want to smile but you have to sigh, when care is pressing you down a bit, rest if you must, but do not ever quit. Success is a failure turned inside out. Let's talk and clear the clouds of doubt. Success is a failure turned inside out.